Okay. I'd like to call the meeting in order. Pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, or to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Attendance, Sean, please.
Board Member Cole? Here. Board Member Dean? Here. Board Member Kimball?
Here.
Board Member Larkin?
Present.
Chairman Sirianni?
Here. Before I go into any presentations or public comments, if I may, I'd like to take 1 minute to say a few words. Okay? I would like to say a couple of words as chairman of this board. I would like to speak to this board and anyone who was at the last meeting. You know, regardless of what the issue is, it is my responsibility to try to keep an orderly meeting. And there is nothing wrong with this board agreeing on issues. There's nothing wrong with this board disagreeing. And there's nothing wrong with this board debating. That's what boards do on any issue. But I should have cut it off when the discussion got redundant. It got too redundant, and that's my fault for not cutting it off to the point where it was not even worthy of a discussion anymore. So I just want to read that into the minutes, if that's okay.
Noted.
Any presentation, Sean?
None.
Any public comments?
None for this evening.
Any letters and communications?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Has everyone had a time to look at prior meeting minutes? Is there a motion to accept the prior meeting minutes?
I'd just make one change, and you already noted that, right?
Yes,
That Mr. Sirianni here was in person and not virtual.
there's a typo on the minutes. I wrote present Zoom in a copy paste error for your attendance, Mr. Chairman,
Oh,
but I will correct that on the final copy of the minutes.
With that change, and unless there's any other changes from the board, I'd recommend it. We just move the minutes.
okay. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Matt,
Yes, sir.
roll call, Sean.
Board Member Cole?
Yes.
Board Member Dean?
Yes.
Board Member Kimball?
Yes.
Board Member Larkin?
Yes.
Chairman Sirianni?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Executive Director, Sean Costello.
Mr. Chairman, lots of work underway. One of the big focuses for this month relates to our various grant projects and the projects for which we hope to obtain grants. We have to update several of our project listings with EFC under their project listing update system. That's a way for EFC to know what claims on funding that's already been allocated they can expect over the next year. We're also working on a financing application to unlock some low interest financing for the Calumet Avenue Sewer Project, which is really moving along quickly at this point with AECOM as our engineers. And we're also working to develop a tight list of grant projects for not just a couple of programs that have deadlines at the end of this month, but also for later in the year. Tomorrow I'm meeting with Hazen and Sawyer engineers, who are engineers for the lead service line program, and we're making sure we put together a good application for that program. For the drinking water side, and Mr. Williamson, I may be stealing your thunder here. I am, he says. We intend to apply essentially to submit largely the same water mains that we submitted last year, predominantly 4-inch water mains, which are, based on our current mode of operation, undersized. They have reduced fire flow and reduced pressures for the homes that are served by those mains. Also, we're going to add a couple of mains that have had a lot of breaks, a significant break history, particularly over the last year. So we're hoping to get funding for a number of main replacements. Wastewater, I don't know that we've absolutely finalized our list. We have an awful long wish list. And it's, of course, there's some prioritization but we do intend to apply for grants in both the water and wastewater rounds that need to be in at the end of this month. The shut-off program or service terminations for non-payment in District 3 have gone quite smoothly, particularly considering the fact that the board has not had a large-scale shut-off program in several years. I've had a lot of opportunity, or more opportunity than in the past, to observe how all that works, and it really is quite impressive, the coordination and the communication with different departments here at the water board, from finance and accounting to the meter shop, the outside maintenance crew, which digs out curb boxes where they can't access to shut off the water, and even with operations. So sometimes, if water service is terminated, the tenant or property owner might come home a day or two later and, they call the after hours. So operations needs to know what happens. And I'm also particularly impressed and appreciative of the cooperation and assistance from City Hall in the Billing and Collections Office. As people come in and pay at the last minute, they have been really great about communicating with us. And I very much appreciate that. We now are conducting routine operations and maintenance meetings here at the water plant again, which it had been several years since those were a routine feature. We're seeing some real progress on maintenance items that have been on the list sometimes for years, such as painting the walls in the filter gallery. Some of the paint is beginning to peel, and in order to complete that project, we'll have to stage various filters offline for a period of time. But we're really making progress there, and that's been nice to see. We used our new confined space alternate procedure for a settling basin entry here at Water for the first time. That procedure was developed with assistance from the consulting firm OSEA. A lot of the drafting was done in-house by our sanitary engineer, Margaret Bilquin, and of course, lots of assistance from operations and maintenance. But that procedure went really well, and it is far less costly than hiring an on-site rescue team, which was necessary when the spaces were classified as permit-required confined spaces. Couple little notes on the exterior of the building. For the first time in a couple of years, we have some nice petunias growing around the sign. I don't know if anybody noticed them as you drove in. For a very small investment, it's a nice way to brighten up the building for the community. And also, a lot of the visitors to Niagara Falls travel. This is one of the first buildings that they pass as they travel downtown. So $20 worth of petunias, I think, is a good investment and the right thing to do. And another thing to note as you drive by is the condition of the exterior of the building now, which has in many places many years of accumulated grime. One of our painter's projects for this summer is to paint the lintels that are beginning to rust above many of the windows. As part of his surface preparation work, he's power washing, and he's not just power washing the lintels, he's power washing the building as he goes. It's been pretty impressive to see what the power washer can do on a decade or two of accumulated grime. So that'll freshen up the exterior of the building a little bit as well. Nothing further at this time.
Is there any questions for Sean?
I got just a couple questions.
Sure.
Regarding the confined space entry plan. Do we know how much, do we have some kind of an figure as to how much went into, the design and the planning for, because you said it's much cheaper than hiring out at the other company that we were using. Do we have some kind of indication that, how much cheaper
Sure. So
it actually is?
when we hired a on-site rescue crew through National Vacuum, it was $3,600 a day. We have spent, I believe, less than $2,500 with OSEA for their consulting services. And in order to put this procedure into action, we had to purchase one new body-mounted 5-gas meter, which I don't recall the exact cost. It was at least $800, maybe $1,200. But essentially, the procedure has paid for itself in one basin entry where we didn't have to hire an on-site rescue crew.
All right. And based on how many times do you use the procedure?
Minimum
A
of
year?
8 times at this plant. in just the settling basins alone. Plus, though just maintenance from time to time and all of the filters, the same procedure will apply. So substantial savings by not having an on-site rescue crew.
And I think I think you already mentioned that there was significant input in the design and the planning for it from Margaret Bilquin and other plant employees.
Yes,
So, I mean, considering the history and all the previous discussions that we've had about confined space entry, and I think some of the complaints and the issues from employees about what was done previously, I think those employees and anybody involved should be commended for their efforts, because they truly have, through working together with, a legitimate or qualified consultant, have produced something that works well for the employees and it works well for safety. And it also reduces cost compared to what we were doing in the past. So, I mean, I think they should be especially commended for their efforts in the work to get this done.
thank you.
Thanks, Jim. That's, I guess, $25,000 to $30,000 a year. That's pretty good.
Yes.
Thank you, Sean. Engineering, Doug Williamson.
Good evening. Hopefully I don't repeat too much of what Sean was going to discuss tonight because we didn't get our heads together beforehand. But yeah, our big thing right now is we're working with CPL, 2025 water and sewer grant applications that are due at the end of the month. Last year we submitted and we weren't awarded the grant from EFC. So basically what we're doing is looking at resubmitting those water main locations. And maybe I can tell you, where those locations are, which Sean wasn't able to tell you, but like Fall Street between 9th to Portage, Pierce Avenue, Whirlpool to Main, Willow Avenue, Whirlpool to 8th Street Division to Pierce, Chilton Avenue, South 87th Street, Pershing Ave, 87th to Cayuga, Creekside Drive, and Munson Avenue between 87th and 88th Street. But all these locations were undersized mains with very low flows. We have it all on our GIS system. So, I sorted through some spreadsheets and did some analysis and, some low pressure. There's some mains that should be getting some more flow than what they are. So those are the ones we're looking into. And Mike Eagler, is more interested, obviously, where they're breaking. So, what we're looking at is putting some additional projects in, like with Mike's input on, where some main breaks are. We can also add a few other locations that I saw that were next in line. B Street, E Street, Willow Ave, 11th to 17th Street, Grove Avenue, and McCoon Avenue between DeVoe and James Avenue. So those all had low flow, they should be getting more flows out of the mains. I mean, we try to replace the 4-inch, but there's some 6-inch that are getting less flow than 4-inch mains. So that's telling you something right there. So also on the sewer grant side, we submitted a sewer grant application last year for the wastewater treatment plant biological conversion project. We weren't awarded that. So this year we got another list together and we're still trying to finalize that. But some of them projects included were sludge building improvements that included sludge incinerators and conveyor system upgrades, new backwash pumps, investigation of the gorge force main. We've got some flow issues there. There might be an obstruction. The flocculation basin walkways project, which we're hoping maybe we could use the current grant phase 1. There's some balance left in 1 and 2, but if not, we might, put in for new grant application and slide gates in the main channel for flow isolation. So those are what we're considering, and it's not final until we put the package and sign it and get out the door by next Friday. So that's what I got tonight.
Is there, have we finalized what we need down there as far as?
We had input from everybody, Dennis Kirkland, the electrician, but I think a lot of the electrical projects won't fly. They're looking more like wastewater treatment type projects or sewer main repairs. We got fortunate with our phase 1 grant that we're, hopefully we can maybe use some of that balance, because we did do like a project 5 that was electrical system improvements, but it's not really anything really to do with the process. So.
Well, I meant like the conversions to the biological.
Oh, those projects, we're actually going to investigate that. Sean, there's still an RFP that we have to put out where they have to come up with parameters that, the DEC gave us some, list of parameters and we're still, negotiating that, but the a consultant's supposed to investigate like, what our BOD demands are, that kind of stuff. And if that, according to what the limit they have, if we're gonna meet that and
Okay,
some other parameters. We're supposed to put an engineering report together within, I don't know how many months now, maybe 14 more months. And
Okay.
get that to them for consideration.
is there any more questions for Doug?
Yeah, just one, regarding the water main replacement.
Yeah.
The 4-inch and you're talking about the grants.
Yeah.
With all that work that you listed, are you anticipating to get enough grants to cover
Oh, yeah.
all of those?
Right. There's a certain amount. I think it used to be $5 million worth of projects and you get 3 million in grant money. But then I heard now it's up to like, it's something like, you do 8.5 million, you get 6 million in grants now. So we try to get about there and not too much higher. But one year we put in for a lot because we didn't receive the previous year and we put in for more money than, the 5 mil one year.
But I mean, how certain are you that we can get all that work done
Oh,
if
within
we
that.
receive the
A
grant?
lot of those locations I told you are little spotty areas, but they were necessary. Instead of doing like a full main replacement somewhere, there were, locations you could maybe in a certain area of town kind of combine it into one project.
Because what I'm getting at is, are you?
Yeah,
how
there's
confident are
definitely-
you in the cost estimates
We
for
with
all of those projects, and will there be enough grant funding to cover all of it?
yeah, that's a difficult one because obviously it's what the contractor bids. You could, use Means Construction Manual, but it's like how many contractors are actually bidding it? It's like so I think, well, CPL or whoever's doing that kind of looks at what more of the current bids are and kind of give you, a better idea. I think what we put in for the grant app was more because I fed them the information on what the last bids were. So they used those unit prices, to come up with an estimate.
Okay,
They didn't use Means or anything.
when
like that. They
was
used-
that estimate done?
It's usually right before the grant app. So 2024 was on, basically in June or whatever, and it was due.
So did they escalate the prices? At the
They
time?
would this year if using the ones from last year, they escalated. For this
All right,
year.
because I'm just trying to figure out because if you don't get enough grant funding, do you have each of those projects prioritized? So that
We
this gets
do,
first,
yeah.
second?
We got a bunch of them going on now that we have prioritized,
All right.
same way. And I don't know necessarily, and I don't know the rule of thumb, but if you what I mean, if you expended all that grant money, if say you didn't do one of the projects because you said you didn't expect the cost to be that high, if you could like bring it into the next year's grant and
All right, 'cause
reapply.
do we have any repair funds set aside for the water mains, or are we just
For-
relying on grant money?
I think it comes out of our capital money. So there's money there. It's coming out of the capital funds.
But it's just the capital funds these projects are gonna be funded through grants, right?
Yeah.
And not
It's like,
repair?
it's where there might be some of that. I'm not 100% certain. Maybe Mike could tell you better, but it's wherever all the capital money came from. It's probably revenues and
Yeah, I'd just like to make
All
sure that
that.
it's within the budget that we've got.
If I may, so the grants cover only, I think, 60% of the project
Yeah.
cost with these. Because of our status as a public entity in a disadvantaged community, we usually qualify for financing through EFC, which is typically a 20-year term. So it would add, that financing, once it's closed, adds to our long-term debt service.
Okay,
We pay that debt service out of the operating budget each year.
all right. I'm just trying to figure out what what impact that is on our budget and the rates that we may have to look at for next year's budget. Whether there's not gonna be an impact, or how much of that's gonna impact the rates.
The impact from those projects would not hit next year's budget. It'd probably be a couple of years out, but yes, it will. The additional debt service, will be an escalation to the operating cost. At the same time, we typically see some debt fall off each year, having reached its maturity. So it's not as dramatic an increase as it might otherwise, be. The impact isn't what it might otherwise be if we weren't also retiring debt as we take on new debt.
All right, but so these 4-inch mains and the work that you described are already identified in the CIP?
Yeah, well, the
as
yes, yeah.
specific
Usually I
project?
don't, yeah, I've got a CIP plan that shows, a lot of line items and that some are funded, some aren't, and then,
Okay, but
I've
they're at
also
least
got
there.
another, yeah, I got a CIP that of all the active projects, which is, brief summary of
Okay.
that. But no, we track them all and, we got,
Okay.
yeah, most of the mains, we kind of got it ranked for the most part. I mean, what's the next batch, all that.
Okay.
Okay.
And, well, if we do finance, are those low interest bonds?
Yes,
Is that
so
what-
we typically don't need, we'll have to ask the authority to issue a bond resolution in order to close the financing. But a bond is typically not issued in the name of the authority. So of course, the authority is our financing arm. We typically are using EFC financing, which EFC goes and puts together, huge bonds that go out to the market and then disperses those funds to us. Our repayments of that financing goes directly to EFC. So we're not actually issuing, or the authority's not issuing a bond. But yes, they're typically subsidized, low or 0% interest financing.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any more questions for Doug?
Thanks, Doug.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Finance, Michael Smith.
Good evening. Just following up a little bit with the shut-off program, which Mr. Costello spoke about. Yeah, I too have been somewhat pleasantly surprised about how everything has been going. I guess we're in the midst of doing the shut-offs for our District 3 right now. And I was told that there were about 30 shut-offs. Some of them were vacant units, some of them owner-occupied. But the staff has been handling, whatever situations come up with regard to that very well. So after, like I said, we're in the midst of District 3. And I was told that District 1 shutoffs will, I guess, start the first week of next month in June. And then after that, we'll start with District 2. Following up at the last board meeting with the banking situation, we still are receiving some, a fair amount of return checks from customers for one reason or another, either refer to maker checks or unable to locate account checks. We have been in touch with the bank regarding this issue. Just this morning, I know one of my staff members, Maria, was on the phone with Bank on Buffalo about some matters. So that's still an ongoing matter, but we continue to work on that issue. The third matter I just want to talk about is the audit update. I really thought at this point in time I would have everything done by now, but unfortunately, I still have a few questions and a few adjustments that I know I need to book. I'm waiting to get the information that I need so I can book those adjustments. So the audit is still ongoing. I did send the auditors pretty much, most of what they need. I did not hear back from them yet with regard to that information, but first thing in the morning tomorrow, I'm going to be in contact with them and just kind of take an inventory of what else, what else, if anything, that they need from me, and just try and find out when, they can complete the audit process.
Yeah, we have to get that audit done, and we have to at the very least right now, make sure they have everything they need from us. So, and then we can go forward from there.
Like I said, there's just a few accounts that I need some information on. And, if I had that information, I could you know, I think it'd be an easy fix. But, you know, without the information, I really can't go forward. So I'm gonna be on the phone. I'll contact the auditors tomorrow morning. I'll get that information. And, you know, we'll get this done.
Okay, is there any questions for Michael Smith?
I have one.
Go ahead.
What information are you missing and where is the blocker on that one?
I was actually in over the weekend, when the auditors were last here, they told me that one of the opening accounts it didn't reconcile to last year's financial statements. And, you know, when, you know, one of the things that I was, you know, on top of my predecessor about, you know, I wanted to make sure that our financial statements were, you know, completely reconciled. So, you know, we didn't have any issues with the prior year numbers. And he told me that, you know, everything was in order. But then, you know, like I said, when the auditors were leaving the last time they were here, they said that one of those accounts was off. So I thought it would be an easy fix. And over the weekend, I was here and I was looking at, I actually came across several accounts that didn't tie in to the prior year numbers. And so I was kind of surprised to see that. And I need to talk to the auditors to basically see what, you know, the proper beginning number should be so that I can analyze it and make whatever adjustment is necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Sean, thanks for that question, Colleen. I guess we talked about it early on about auditing from previous years. Could we get a better handle on if some numbers aren't lining up? I guess we have to straighten that out before we do anything.
Well, that's the procedure, I believe, that Mr. Smith is engaged with the auditors who have all the prior year numbers and figures. You know, I think to some degree, it's just the way that revenues and expenditures were classified and, you know, how some of the more abstract numbers were reached, like things like depreciation and concepts like
Yeah.
that. But that is the work that Mr. Smith is doing right now, is reconciling those numbers.
Okay,
One of the things that I am really focusing on is I want to leave good tracks. And I'm kind of a, you know, paper guy. You know, a lot of this stuff is, you know, in Excel files in various places in our network. Well, I'm printing these things out. I'm printing all these schedules out. I'm putting them in a binder. And I'm having references as to, you know, where you get this information from, how you get the information, who has the information, you know, whether it's Doug or Mr. Costello, you know, that I need to talk to get the information. You know, none of that was available to me when I was, you know, working on all these schedules. But going forward, you know, I am, you know, very focused on, you know, keeping detailed tracks so that, you know, if I were to get hit by a bus, somebody could just come in and look at my binder and see exactly where those numbers are coming from and, you know, what's needed to get all the information, you know, to do all that work.
thank you. Does any more questions for,
Yeah. just-
Go ahead, Matt.
Chairman. Is it, so this audit was already underway when I came on board. So I've been following it, but it was preceding, my tenure, if you want to call it that. I'm assuming this is a state mandated audit, and if so, does the state have a deadline for us that has to be done by?
The deadline was actually March 31st, and I was on the phone with I was on the phone with the state, you know, who I guess check off all these audits. They did tell me that, you know, there were quite a few entities, you know, who they're still waiting on. You know, I did, you know, just want to tell them that we were going to be late filing our audit, and you know, and they made the comment that, you know, there were a lot of other organizations out there that, you know, were in the same situation as we were. So I can give them another call and just tell them that, you know, I expect to have everything done shortly.
Okay, tell me, do we have a specific time frame which shortly will be?
Well, it's a matter of me getting the information. Once I have the information, I can book the adjustments, send it to the auditors, and they can tell me, you know, how long it's going to take for them to finish up their audit work and produce the financial statements. So, like I said, I will be on the phone with them in the morning, and I'll get an answer for that.
Okay, so that still doesn't tell us exactly what time frame you're thinking this is going to take.
I thought I would be done by now, but you know, a lot of things have kind of blown up on me. So you know, just I really can't see this taking any more than, you know, 2 or 3 more weeks. And, you know, for us to get at least a draft financial statement from the auditors.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mike, do we, just to follow up on the state deadline, I've overseen a number of audits in a different company that I'm involved in a similar capacity. I'm just coordinating the accountants and attorneys and various people. And do we have, is there, so March 31st passed, I believe you 100% that there's other entities that are late. Do we suffer, or could we suffer a penalty or lose any kind of status by
Not,
being late?
not that I'm aware of.
All right, I'm not saying that's the case.
I
but
can-
My previous experience, you know, like in that entity, which is also a state mandated and mandated third-party audit, you lose your licensing status if, in again, in the other case, if you're past the deadline, you're out of luck.
Okay,
I didn't assume that's the case here, but you know, there may be some penalty or think something similar I'm unaware of.
I'll contact the state tomorrow, the person who I talked to previously, and I can ask them that question if there's any kind of penalties associated with,
I presume not, but I'd
filing.
just like to know.
Sure.
Well, this question has been asked before. I asked it weeks ago, and no one has saw fit to try to find out that information. So I was very concerned about the fact that this audit is late, and I wanted to know what exactly the penalties would be that we would suffer due to the lateness of it. So I'm just kind of surprised that this hasn't been flushed out already, because the question has been asked.
Okay, I'll take the blame for that, and I'll get an answer for you.
We, to Renee's point, can we not wait for the next, monthly meeting? Can you get that to Sean and then he'll give it to us by email?
Sure,
Mine, when you find that out? Thanks, Mike.
sure.
Mike,
Right.
just one last question. You say you're waiting on information. Are you waiting on water board employees? Are you waiting on a contractor? Are you waiting on a system? When you say you're waiting on, who is supposed to provide the information?
Well, at this point in time, it's the auditors, because, you know, I have contacted my predecessor about some, you know, information that I was looking for, and he really wasn't much help. And so, you know, I've searched everywhere in our network and files, you know, for the information that I need. And, you know, I guess the auditors are kind of my last resort. And, you know, since they did the audit last year, they should have the information. I'm sure they have the information. It's just a matter of,
So if I understand you right, a lot of the delays associated with, you know, that there, in your words, there wasn't a lot of good tracks available as to where you could find the information. correct?
that's exactly correct.
Okay,
And
Thank
that,
you.
and that's why I'm, you know, trying to fix that situation and keep,
thanks, Mike. I
keep 'em
appreciate that
good.
and the work that you're doing to make it better, to leave that record or create the tracks like you're saying. Thank you.
Sean, I'm just wondering, obviously there's frustration all around on this particular issue. If the board wished, is it possible that we bring someone in to help this thing along? you know, you got the state on one side, we need an audit. I just want you to think about it. I don't need an answer because I'm just popping an unexpected question, but if you think about that and then let the board know somehow, some way, we got to get this audit done. And I don't know where the whole problem is. Maybe some of it's the auditors too, but we have to address this.
Okay.
Okay.
I will speak with Mr. Smith and possibly the auditors as well to see if there's any additional resources we could add.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
I missed technology. I apologize. Jonathan Joyce, I seen that. Sorry, young man.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good.
Quickly, scale computing, we do have our hypervisors on site. John came back from training, so we're gonna, start working on that, configuring that, going. We have mobile device management completely deployed now. It's good. We are also working on cloning the computers to Windows 11 now. We're on target to have all our computers updated to Windows 11 before our end of support for Windows 10. Also, we have good news today. We worked on regulated 6C at Hyde Park, and we're able to get communications restored. So I know that's good news.
It's a long-term issue, so thank
Yeah.
you. And I should just note for the purpose of the recording that John Joyce is not present tonight. Elton Mensah Selby, Systems Engineer, is presenting the IT report.
So yeah, that's all I have.
I'm hearing good things about you, Alton.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work, and I thank you for your report. Is there any questions for Alton?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Administrative Services, Caleb Holman.
Good evening, members of the board. I want to start by thanking you for this opportunity. In my initial few weeks as the Director of Administrative Services, I've been able to meet with the team, and I've had a very welcoming experience so far. We've been meeting with consultants and vendors to identify ways to get more value from our relationships. And we've been examining core HR processes and conducting initial compliance audits. And we've also began an employee appreciation program. We've been doing birthday cards and work anniversary cards for our staff, and it's been very well received.
I've heard about that, and I've heard the same. Yeah, bunch of guys have done that for already. Really appreciate it.
Tonight, we are requesting that the board approve line item 1 of the personnel actions and report to post and recruit a meter technician to fill the vacancy created by Marty Shovel, who will be soon transferring to the compliance officer / industrial waste inspector position.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion. Go ahead.
I'll second it.
Second,
I actually have an amendment to the personnel action sheet request. This afternoon, I was made aware that there was a request for the leave of absence for the senior administrative assistant to be extended to January 28, 2026. It's not something normally we vote on. I just want to see, Sean, if we need to update that in the sheet now or how this works.
I received that request at about 3:30 PM, so I've got to review it, and if the extension is granted, it'll be noted on the next personnel action sheet.
How does that work, Sean? Is it something that we need to approve from the board end or?
Nope, I just need to review to make sure it's compliant with the policy and make sure that the deadline is within the 1-year allowance under our leave policy.
I guess I think it is because the leave was approved for January 28, 2026. So is it something that we can amend now, or will it be something we can amend? How does it work, Sean? Just really, how does it work?
The board is not the entity that grants or approves, I should say,
Okay.
leaves of absence. And again, that request just came in. I haven't even forwarded it on to Mr. Holman yet, as I was preparing for the meeting. So I don't anticipate an issue, but
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, is there any discussion on the personal action sheet that we just had a first and second motion on? Roll call.
Board Member Cole,
Yes.
Board Member Dean,
Yes.
Board Member Kimball,
Yes.
Board Member Larkin,
Yes.
Chairman Siriani.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you, Caleb.
Thank you, Kevin.
Um, Any questions regarding April 25th operations and the maintenance report? No. Any resolution, Sean?
Mr. Chairman, the first resolution is found at page 43 of the agenda packet. It is resolution number 2025-05001, wastewater treatment plant sedimentation basin chain and flight spare parts.
Is there a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on it? Roll call, Sean.
Board Member Cole,
Yes.
Board Member Dean,
Yes.
Board Member Kimball,
Yes.
Board Member Larkin.
Yes.
Chairman Siriani.
Yes.
Motion passes. The next resolution is found at page 48 of the agenda packet. Resolution number 2025-05002, procurement of main pump variable frequency drives.
Motion to approve the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on it? Roll call, Sean.
Board Member Cole,
Yes.
Board Member Dean,
Yes.
Board Member Kimball,
Yes.
Board Member Larkin,
Yes.
Chairman Siriani.
Yes.
Motion passes. The next resolution is found beginning at page 50 of the agenda packet, resolution number 2025-05003, authorizing additional $2,800 for procurement of replacement wastewater treatment plant carbon filter bed troughs.
Is there a motion to accept?
Move it.
Renee? Jim, you second?
Second.
Renee first. Any discussion on it?
Yeah, just one question, Sean. Says, additional 2,800 for procurement. Granted, it's a small number, but is that, above our established budget for this particular item in the budget? Do we-
No, because we didn't have a specific figure attached to this procurement. This is, Doug, were we writing a capital purchase order for this?
Yes, we will.
Okay, so we'll pay for it.
This was approved at the last board meeting, then that price increased to the making it stronger.
But
Right,
we're expected to stay within the overall budget. I know it's a small number, but it's,
yes. So we'll pay for this out of capital funds, existing capital funds that,
okay.
ultimately someday we will have to replenish through additional debt issuances, but the $2,800 won't have a material impact on that.
So the impact is in future years when we have to take care of that, right?
Yes.
Okay, any more questions on it? Roll call, Sean?
Board Member Cole,
Yes.
Board Member Dean,
Yes.
Board Member Kimball,
Yes.
Board Member Larkin, Chairman Siriani.
Yes.
Motion passes. The next resolution is found beginning at page 56 of the agenda packet, resolution number 2025-05004, authorizing bill adjustment for water that passed through 2 meters.
Is there a motion?
A motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Matt? Any discussion on it? Roll call, Sean?
Board Member Cole,
Yes.
Board Member Dean,
Yes.
Board Member Kimball,
Yes.
Board Member Larkin,
Yes.
Chairman Siriani.
Yes.
Motion passes. The final resolution in the agenda packet is found beginning at page 58. Resolution number 2025-05005, authorizing bill adjustments for exempt New York State entities.
Is there a motion to accept?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Second. Is there any discussion on it?
Yeah, I'd like an explanation. I'm not real familiar with this.
Sure. So, I mean, these are somewhat unusual, not routine. These are two different adjustments one is for the New York State Parks, one of the New York State Parks accounts, where essentially a water line it was a drain line for a bathroom. The drain goes into a French drain, not into the sewer system. They have a drain system, and they use that to winterize the building. When they restored service to the building last summer, they had not closed or had not fully closed the drain line. So, they went from an average bill of, I think it was $350 to $500 per quarter, to that $65,608. We are confident that the vast majority, other than what little was used for domestic purposes inside the building, went into the French drain and thus not into our sewer system. So they had requested, and they began making this request. It's taken some time to really look it over and think about it after their October 1 billing cycle, when they learned of the substantial water loss. So this would remove the sanitary sewer charge from the bill as a one-time accommodation. The other one is for NFTA, which is a non-resident customer, much like the airbase used to be, but the airbase chose to go to the county system a few years ago. So, non-resident customers with substantial capital investment, I suppose, but they do have a choice of, where they're procuring their water. We do bill non-resident users about 260% of the rate that is charged to residential users. So here, NFTA had a break in a water line serving one of their fire hydrants. And they asked for an adjustment to remove, because we don't charge them sewer, what this would do is just, again, as a one-time accommodation for an entity that, we would reach out to for mutual aid if we ever needed it for something that they had in their abilities, and also for an entity that we don't have the ability to collect the bill. So if it went unpaid, we could terminate water service, but we're unlikely to do that to NFTA. And we certainly can't collect it through the tax procedure because there's a government entity, they don't pay it, and they're not in the city anyway, which is where our unpaid bills ultimately are added to property taxes. So as a resolution to the issue, this would bill them at the highest rate paid by a user within the city and the users within the city actually pay less, as you hit higher thresholds. This would just stay at that initial highest rate. It would convert the bill to the highest rate paid by a resident user. Again, as a one-time accommodation under fairly unique circumstances for a unique government entity.
So, thank you. That's very thorough. If I'm understanding correctly, we're waiving the sewer portion, but not the water portion. I might have misunderstood.
Waiving the sewer portion for state parks.
State parks, yeah.
For the NFTA bill, we're charging them for just this one bill. We're going to convert their rate from the non-resident rate that they normally pay, which is 260% higher, to the resident rate as just an accommodation in light of the circumstances.
I see. The parks, I don't want to make an enemy out of New York State, obviously. I don't think anybody here does, but, it seems fair if they're paying for the water itself, but not the sewer portions. You're, paraphrasing your explanation. The only thing that I'm vexed on with that is we wouldn't do that for a resident, would we?
Typically, no, but a resident typically also isn't going to have a French drain designed to take that flow so it does not enter either the sanitary or the storm sewer system. So we never had that flow reach us.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Appreciate the explanation.
John, just a question on the NFT airport garage. You took the highest rate, from the other commercial customers?
So the rate class, our highest rate class is the commercial, small industrial, residential. So everybody pays the
Mhm.
same rate in that classification until you reach the significant industrial user. So our rate for the first, I forget how many billing units is, I think, $4.33. And then it declines from there. It goes down to, $2.72, I think is the lowest rate for the units. So I took their usage and multiplied it by that first highest rate, the $4.33. So, certainly we're not going to give a non-resident entity a better price than we would offer to our, a user within the city.
Okay, thanks, I'm good.
Yeah, thanks, Sean.
Roll call, Sean?
Board Member Cole,
Yes.
Board Member Dean,
Yes,
Board Member Kimball,
Yes,
Board Member Larkin,
Yes.
Chairman Siriani.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Is there any unfinished or old business? Any new business and additional items for discussion? Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? Does anyone need to say anything?
motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Matt? Roll call, Sean?
Board Member Cole,
Yes.
Board Member Dean,
Yes.
Board Member Kimball,
yes to adjourn.
Board Member Larkin,
Yes to adjourn.
Chairman Siriani.
Yes.
Motion passes. I'll state for the purpose of the recording, the time is 5:51 PM.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.